Tom, we kind of talked yesterday about what we expected to hear from Stephen Guilbeault, the Environment Minister, today. I want you to hear, because I listened to the end of this specifically. This is the Canadian Press report, sort of, encapsulating what was said today. Brian?
The plan will model emissions projections for different sectors that are feasible and necessary to achieve Canada's current goal to curb emissions to no more than 60% of what they were in 2005 before the end of the decade. He says Canadians will see something in the plan they never have before, a roadmap to actually meet a climate target. Canada has issued at least 11 plans and set 9 different emissions targets since 1988, but has never met a single one of them.
That's right, never met a single one of them, Tom. That's why I wanted you to hear that. So what do you think?
Well, yeah, this is something I get a chance to talk about a lot with my students, too, because there's been really good objective work done on this, and Canada is an outlier. It's not my opinion. It's Canada's own Commissioner of Sustainable Development and Environment who said in so many words that since the signing of the Paris Accord, and Mr. Trudeau was in that room, as was I when that happened in 2015, he said Canada's back, and he signed the Paris Accord and then came back to Canada, and he stuck with Stephen Harper's plan that he never met. So, we know that Canada has the worst record in the G7. That's a fact. So for Mr. Trudeau to be out there today with Mr. Guilbeault saying, this is great stuff, but you know what? It is. It's full of good ideas. The real question is, do they have any intention of enforcing it and putting it into effect? Look, I'll give you 3 words to watch out for 2 weeks from now. Those 3 words are baie, du, nord. And despite the half French, half English name, because in that name, Bay is spelled the English way, B-A-Y. That's a place just off Newfoundland, the island of Newfoundland. And it's a place where the Norwegians have a $15 billion petroleum offshore project. And that's going to be before Cabinet within the next 15 days. And I'll just put it to you this way. If that project gets approval, today's announcement, you can just throw it in the garbage. It'll have lost all meaning. So, yes, they've done a very good job. They've done their homework. They've come up with some good ideas. They're putting some money behind it. And Mr. Trudeau was complaining that the problem was Stephen Harper. When I see that stuff, it gets me so riled up. It reminds me, when Parizeau came to power with the PQ, he talked about the prior Liberal government for 9 years. And I think that at some point you've got to assume your own responsibilities. Mr. Trudeau's in his 7th year in power. He has done nothing, and he's got to stop blaming Stephen Harper for this. So let's see what comes of it. But if they approve Baie du Nord, forget about it. Nothing's going to happen.
I always have a hard time. I always imagine that Stephen Guilbeault has a hard time sleeping at night, but I do still find that he gives me hope. Am I wrong to hope that with Guilbeault at the helm that some progress might be made here, Tom?
No, that's why there was so much homework that went into this plan. It's all on Stephen Guilbeault. He's been pushing the bureaucrats hard. They've been working, and I do have this at the highest level inside confirmation that the bureaucrats were pushing back, saying, well, let's talk about, we hope that we might be able to make it. And the answer from Guilbeault was, no. I'm going to say that this is the exact target we're going to meet, minimum of minus 40% between now and 2030 compared to the 2005 emission rates. So, no, Guilbeault's heart is in the right place. Mm-hmm. The real question will come around the cabinet table in exactly 2 weeks, because they've just punted this project that I just referred to, the Baie du Nord project. They've got their second delay, so another 48 days. That 40 days is up in 2 weeks, and we'll see. If they actually have the guts to say no, we'll never meet our targets if we approve this massive new hydrocarbon, play. These fossil fuels will throw us off all of our targets. Then I'll be the first to congratulate them. But I hope you don't mind if I don't hold my breath.
Yeah. I will point out as well, looking at the numbers, they're pretty staggering. $60 billion a year, so it's $2 trillion inside of the next 3 decades to get us to net zero. That's a ton of money.
It's an absolute ton of money. And the real question is, what have we ever done in the past when we made all the other announcements that were referenced in that piece that we heard at the beginning of the clip you played? And that's the thing. And a change of government, and I am saying that it's wrong to keep going back to Harper. But at the same time, Pierre Poilievre, if he ever became the leader of the Conservatives and realized his dream of becoming Prime Minister, guess what? It'll be drill, baby, drill. So Trudeau's always going to have the benefit of the doubt compared to that. But the real question is, what's he done for 7 years? And if you look at it, the answer is nothing.
That's very sobering. So the measures, the 50 measures finally being announced today, even though they were all leaked last week. Any surprises in there? Anything is it a realistic plan, would you say?
Yes, and I am giving top marks to Christian Dubé, both as a minister and simply one of the best ministers I've seen in any Quebec government in decades. He's brilliant. He's an unbelievably good manager, administrator, but he's also got a smidgen of modesty in everything that he does. He's that good, but he also has a little bit of, restraint when he talks about his plans. So yes, it's a very long list of 50 or so things that can be boiled down to a half a dozen, most important of which is to make sure that we use the best models we have in Quebec to get people to be able to see doctors and unload the constant breakdown of our emergency system in Quebec. They're going to build new hospitals, add a couple of thousand beds. A lot of Quebecers were surprised to learn that we had one of the lowest ratios of hospital beds of any jurisdiction in North America. The bureaucrats take care of themselves in the health ministry, but they forget that the only reason they have jobs is to make sure that people can get health care when they need it. By the way, we've gone from 10 to 16 deputy ministers in the health department since the CAC was there. I'm not sure I know what all those new deputy ministers are doing, but I digress. I think that Christian Dubé deserves a big pat on the back for this. I give him full credit, but I was so distraught when I saw all of the opposition parties go before the cameras. And I thought this was a missed opportunity for Dominic Anglade, because she knows what it's like to be in government. She knows what it's like to be around that cabinet table. She knows how tough this file is. And if she had gone to the microphone and said, look, this is an incredibly complex problem. I think that in good faith they've come up with a few good ideas and they deserve a chance. I think everybody would have seen her as the adult in the room. Instead, she was emoting for the ages, chewing the scenery, the same way the PQ and other minor parties like Quebec Solidaire were doing. And she missed an opportunity to shine and to show that she understands innately how difficult it is to deal with the health system in our current situation here in Quebec. So it's a missed opportunity, as I say, for Dominic Anglade.
Tom, I have this feeling as you describe Christian Dubé and how you think he's, doing such a great job. Imagine then, just as you said that, I thought, imagine if he simply walked across the National Assembly and decided to join the Liberals instead and then run as their leader, and he could win the election as the head of the provincial Liberals.
Look, this guy has got skills, because it's very, very rare for someone to come out of the private sector at the top level where he was, take all of those skills and apply them to public administration the way he's doing. And that's why I think he deserves to be given a break. If you look at his priorities, the way he's doing it, he's using the best practices that have existed. Some models do produce good results. He's taking all of the best ones, rolling it into this thing, and he's building new hospitals, and he's adding a couple of thousand beds. Look, again, I think that he's the best thing that we've had in health in a long time. And by the way, we've broken with the tradition that the Liberals had of putting in doctor after doctor after doctor. It turned out that their nose was too stuck up against the window. They never had any perspective. They could never pull back. Dubé pulls back, says, this is working, this is not, this I will change, this I won't.
I just thought you didn't say my idea was crazy that he be a Liberal.
Well, I got to tell you, though, again, hearing him speak to Elias Makos this morning, I couldn't believe, just an excellent communicator. They haven't exactly been accessible to us, Tom, and so I found it very refreshing, and I thought maybe they actually care a little bit about what Anglophones think. We're going to be replaying that interview, by the way, at 5:35.
Well, maybe somebody around him, and maybe he himself knows that CJAD 800 is far and away the most important news source for the English-speaking community of Montreal. And I think that might be one of the other advantages that he's got. He listens to this stuff, and he understands what's happening, and he's not afraid to go on there and give these detailed explanations.
All right, let's move along from that and talk about something generically here real quick. Russia, Ukraine, apparently substantive negotiation peace talks. Are you buying into that?
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I do wear my name Thomas very well. I doubt until I can see that the thing's actually working. I'm a bit Biden-esque on this, because Biden always takes a step back from the microphone and says, I'll believe it when I see it. And that's pretty well where I am right now, because I don't believe a lot that comes out of any discussion with the Russians. But I will say that, praying for peace right now and hoping for peace and just simply hoping that this thing can actually work is important, because you've got to believe that there's going to be an end to this thing. We know that there will be. What form that will take, that's something else. Can the Russians be trusted? Absolutely not. Will they look for any advantage. Yes, they've already stolen the Crimea, where they had two major naval bases. That should have been dealt with after the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was left to fester, and they just went in and did what the Russians do. They took territory the same way they took territory in Georgia, let's say. And they've done this several times since the fall of the Berlin Wall. So now they're probably going to try to build a corridor with the Donbass to Crimea, to Russia, and we'll wind up with some sort of partition. But the people of Ukraine will have to make a horribly tough decision, say, well, do we give up part of the country and finally live in peace and have some guarantees? That's going to be what's on the table.
Tom, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to talk to you.
You feel free to tell Christian Dubé he should become a Liberal, Tom. That's not a problem at all. Tom
I think whoever he's with, he's still one of the best health ministers we've ever had.
Agreed.